flying high, you know how I feel. Sunny in the sky, you know how I feel. Reeds drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. Oh, and I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. Rivers running free, you know how I feel. Blossoms in the tree, oh, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, and oh, I'm feeling good. Dragonfly out in the sun, you know what I mean. Butterflies all having fun, you know what I mean. Sleep in peace when day is done, that's what I mean. And this old world is a new world, and this bold world for me, and I'm feeling good. Stars, when you shine, you know what I feel. Scent of the pine, you know what I feel. Oh, freedom is mine. Oh, and I know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, and I'm feeling good.
WURD 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Good afternoon. This is Black Women's Leadership Council coming on a little late after the mayor's press conference. I'm joined here with the Rita Hill. Good afternoon, Rita.
Good afternoon, Joanne. How are you today?
Oh, I'm coming along, Rita.
Yeah.
We're going to have a few guests. We're running a little late. We were to have State Representative, Minority Leader Joanna McClinton, but she's having a little trouble, and she's in the middle of her travel, but we want you to hear her, so we're going to reschedule her. We have at the ready a couple of women that you'll enjoy hearing, that you're familiar with, and that's our Register of Wills, Tracy Gordon. And we're going to be joined by lawyer Jetty Newkirk and by former Judge Thomasina Tynes. Now, before we get to them, and because we got a lot to talk about, we just came out of this press conference, and I was reading some of the comments in the press section. Now, I'm never known to behave myself, so I'm not going to try to do it now. I don't know what that press conference was. I really don't. Did you know, Rita?
No, and I'm glad that you said it, because I said, well, it's just a bunch of talking and fluff, and they spend a lot of time preparing their PowerPoints and their slides, but the people of Philadelphia want to hear some real solutions, not things that have been tried before or said before. You know, we're in a state of emergency, and the people of Philadelphia want solutions, not rhetoric.
After a couple of days of these murders, you come on and you bring a slide presentation that says to me absolutely nothing, absolutely
Exactly.
nothing. You come on and the mayor says, I don't even know what he said. I listened, but I didn't know what he said. And then it got progressively worse as it went down progressively. And then there was, please, it's almost an example about why we're in the condition. I cannot even believe it. I cannot believe it.
Well, I mean, we were excited, Joanne, when we said, oh, the mayor's going to have a press conference on the gun violence and what he plans to do, because we've been calling on the mayor to do something for weeks and weeks and weeks. What is the plan from this administration to quell the gun violence, to understand the gun violence, to protect the citizens of the city? We've been calling on this for weeks. So we were excited. We said, yes, let's hear what he has to say. And I'm like you, I don't know what the mayor said, and I don't know what the people around him said. I didn't hear any solutions.
Yeah, I didn't hear any either. I really didn't. I really didn't.
You know what I heard, Joanne? I heard, like you said, over the years that we've been on WURD, speaking truth to power. What I heard was a bunch of people from ivory towers getting on the press conference and talking about nothing. Nothing that's going to change the trajectory of the violence that's going on in our community. I'm not saying they're not well intentioned. I'm saying I didn't hear any solutions yet. So disappointing. So disappointing.
I know. It really I didn't get any of it, and it's pretty clear that the people who were listening really didn't. We're going to go to a quick break so that we can pull our guest up. You're listening to Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. We'll be right back.
WURD Radio celebrates Women's History Month with the 2021 Level Up Contest. This year, we're highlighting Black women-owned businesses who are making a difference in their communities. A big thanks to all of our nominees for joining us on this journey. We had an overwhelming response with almost 100 nominations. Tune in to Save Space with Sincerely Sarita on March 31st at 7 p.m. for a live on-air Level Up pitch party where the 10 Philly finalists will compete to win a marketing package valued at over $5,000. Level Up is a joint production of WURD Radio in Philadelphia, WVON in Chicago, and KJLH in Los Angeles. 3 Black-owned radio stations who are joining forces to spotlight Black women-owned businesses in Philly, Chicago, and Los Angeles. Don't forget, join us March 31st at 7 p.m. for the 2021 Level Up Pitch Party, hosted by Sincerely Sarita, where local Black women entrepreneurs will pitch their businesses to a panel of judges. Visit WURDradio.com and click on the Level Up banner for more information. The 2021 Level Up Contest is sponsored by Comcast, Bank of America, PICO, Keystone First, and Thomas Jefferson University and Jefferson Health.
COVID vaccines are here, and Black physicians and scientists help to develop them. So I feel good about getting the vaccine. And with new forms of the virus now spreading, I know we need to keep up everything we're already doing. Masking up, keeping that 6-foot distance, and avoiding crowds. COVID's been doubly tough on us, so let's double down to take it down. We can do this. Learn more about getting the vaccine and slowing the spread at cdc.gov/coronavirus. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Hi, this is Samantha from Leo's Apparel on Germantown and Lehigh Ave. Open from 9:30 to 5:30, Monday through Saturday. We have the hottest selection of boys' dress suits and casual sportswear for boys, sizes 2T to 20. Men, let me tell you, we got in a large shipment of straws from Stetson. We have new linen and dress suits. Biggest selection of Stacey Adams shoes. Get an extra WURD 10% discount.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. A My Social Security account allows you to access your earnings history and benefits information, request a replacement Social Security card, get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Family Therapy Vignette Moments with Dr. Lucille Ijoy.
A vignette for Cody Anderson. It's a rap. I said it's a rap. I think Cody would approve. It's called That's Cody. C-O-D-Y. That's Cody. C-O-D-Y. C is for compassion. That's Cody. O is for outstanding. That's Cody. D is for devoted to family, doing good in the community. That's Cody. That's Cody. Oh, that's Cody. Y is you can do it. Encourager. That's Cody. A real encourager. And last but not least, radio icon. That's Cody. That's Cody. Yeah, that's a rap. That's Cody. That's Cody.
Want the latest in Word swag? Check out the shop tab on WURDradio.com. Hoodies, tees, and more in a variety of colors. The shop tab on WURDradio.com. Show the world that you're all about black. Talk Media. In celebration of women, Michelle Obama.
If we want to give all of our children a foundation for their dreams, then we must work like never before.
This is Word Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Philadelphia. Independent Black Media.
You're listening to The Source with Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Peace in every way, but in search for the clue, wrong things I was bound to do. Keep my head to the sky for the clouds to tell me why. As I grew.
You're listening to Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. And we've got two guests who have joined us, and so, you know, we're going to be doing it today. We've got on Skype with us is the Register of Wills, Tracy Gordon. Hey, Tracy.
Hi, Tracy.
Good afternoon. Hello, how are you?
And on the line, we have the esteemed lawyer, Jetty Newkirk. Jetty.
Hi, Joanne. How are you? And hello, Tracy. And hello, Rita.
Yes. Miss Newcourt, I was so happy to see you at the Honorable Emma Chappelle's Celebration of Life service. I didn't get a chance to speak with you, but I was glad to see you.
I saw you there, and I'm glad to see you. This gives me a chance to tell me how proud we are of you and what a good job you're doing.
Thank you. I'm coming from you. You've known me for years. We've known each other back when I was just new block captain and activist, and I've always respected you, just as you've always given me respect and advice. And I give you for your flowers right here while we're alive and talking. Thank you, Ms. Newkirk.
Isn't that a wonderful thing to do, Joanne? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. You know, I'm going to, Rita and I are attempting to keep this going in the spirit of our sister Emma Chappelle. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. I want to look at it. She's holding up her program. Yes,
I'm gonna cherish this. I'm gonna cherish this.
She's going to be with us at everything we do. So I have to tell you what she would have said about that press conference. Okay. All right. So I gotta keep my. I know. Listen. We were roadies for a number of years, so I can basically tell you some of the things that she would say.
Yeah.
So I got a gift that was given to me by Kerry Kirkland, Deputy Secretary Kerry Kirkland and his wife, Juanita. They know me so well. And I love this gift, and I meant to bring it downstairs with me so that I could use it. I didn't know I was going to need it today, but I should have known.
Right.
And so what it is, it's a doll. It's called the Damn It doll.
Yeah.
Okay. And when something ain't right, you take that doll on the back and you hold it by the legs and you hit it and you go, damn it, damn it, damn it. Well, I needed it for that press conference. Because I don't know what that was. But what I do know is that we got people being mowed down in the street. We got people who go out the door and don't know if they'll ever return back. We just had, what was he, a 9-year-old shot, or 11-year-old riding his bike, and then we get that kind of press. I want real solutions. Nothing. I don't want to see another slide, another intellectual discussion about it. What are we going to do about it? It is insulting.
I was expecting him to call a limited emergency, medical emergency. That did not happen.
And listen, I just was talking with my solicitor and my deputies. The workers, the essential workers, my workers, the employees are afraid for their safety at City Hall.
Oh.
Somebody got shot down a couple weeks ago at the clothespin. A few months before that, rape at Love Park, broad daylight.
Oh.
Macy's, rape.
That's right.
I get out my car and it's just like people that I know need some mental health that are just roaming around, and it's really, my staff have to use the subway where the SEPTA worker minding his business, going home to his family, gets jumped. No security in sight. Where's the cameras? Hasn't been any arrests or anything. So all we hear is a constant bombardment of crime, 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 yet we never hear any solutions. And so, yes, I'm very afraid. I'm very afraid. This is why I wrote to the police commissioner and asked, could they have cops stationed around all the playgrounds, so at the very least, parents, knowing that they keep their kids in the house. Our kids, they've been in the house all year. They're going to go out. The basketball courts are out. We, as parents and as a community, are very concerned about our safety.
Right, the safety of our children and our loved ones. It's scary.
So, I know, Tracy, that you have been a longtime community activist, and I see you post frequently on Facebook, and you talk about quality of life things, about keeping the trash up, and neighborhood things, which is really the things that are very helpful to keep a strong community. We've had these conversations over and over again. We know that a lot of the violence is driven by poverty, lack of employment, children who are, children have to go out and play, and they can't play in their own neighborhoods. And we can stack each one of these things upon each one of these things, but we know some of the root causes of this violence. But we also know that there has to be some sort of immediate, not necessarily the solution, but some immediate addressing it. And I read somewhere where someone had said, look, I'm almost for bring in martial law or something like that. I don't know if I'd go that far. But what I'm saying is that something drastic has to happen.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I didn't say, I didn't go as far as martial law, whatever really that means. Because if martial law was going to save somebody's baby life, then hey, let's discuss it. Well, let's just discuss the lack of investment that's going into our communities. Okay, so we overwhelmingly, undeniably black women voted for Biden. This city turned out. I suggest that because it's time for the local, if they can't get assistance from the state, then we need to go to federal. That was what something, by the way, I thought was model cities was all about, with the civil rights and the unrest and just, lack of opportunity for blacks. That was what that civil rights was about. What happened is lack of investment in our communities. Look at our roads. Look at how they keep the roads. They don't even try this. If you go on 76 and any of the arteries, it looks like no one cares. And that's why I've always been an advocate about litter. It's a different when a child can leave their house and see trees and flowers and, Miss Mary saying hi, or coming out the house and all they see is trash, vacant lots. The heroes may be the people that may be peddling drugs or whatever. But where's the investments? Where are the programs that that assist, urban communities and helping us to keep our kids healthy and safe? Let's look at the elementary schools. Most of them, when you go to the elementary school, there is not even a playground. It's just concrete. That is not healthy. You go into any suburb, when you go to their schools, it looks like a campus. It's trees, it's flowers, they have the playgrounds, they have the baseball field, the soccer field, the field hockey field, so invest in our community. So I asked the question, the soda tax money is, I just wanted to know, are any of the playgrounds, are they getting revitalized? I know in my area, in particular, we just got a brand new playground as a result of some money that Councilman Kenyatta sent, and the kids are out there really enjoying it, Miss Joanne. And then now they're remodeling the inside. So I'm saying that some of the solutions that I see have to be the solutions that we had as children. My mother kept me in programs. I was always in programs. We was jumping when you go up to a school or the playground, they have programs to help us. It has to be some holistic, because right now, I don't see the kids riding bikes. I don't see the kids outside, and probably because many of the parents are afraid.
So I want to say something. And I'm going to come back to this so that we can stop the chatter that's on the Facebook. It is very difficult during this period when we're not in the studio to be able to multitask. When we are, when we're on at different locations. The engineer is in the studio. We are at a home location. And we have 3 different things that we have to do in order to keep up, to know who's calling,
yes,
to communicate with the producer, and it is very hard and then talk at the same time. So for those who think that we need to monitor Facebook more, we're not in a position. At least this show isn't. Some shows may have an extra person who can sit there and read the comments as we're going along.
Right.
We cannot read the comments, talk on the radio, listen to the producer, know when this time for the commercials, bring up the guests, and do all of that at the same time. It has nothing to do with being tech savvy. It means that we are trying to continue to bring good programming to you under the banner that we have with COVID, since all of us cannot be in the station, and we wish you would appreciate that. This is the only time I'm going to bring it up. So I want to go to Jetty. Jetty?
Yeah. I think that I've heard a number of people talk about having, first of all, a joint committee that's working on all of this, and I thought that had already happened, but it seems it has not. I know that there is a committee of council working on gun control and gun resolutions and what have you, and there's a committee working on the violence, but I don't see a committee with, and you've had this discussion with Krasner many times about there being a collection of all of the people that would be involved, including the mental health people, to sit down at the table at the same time to talk about solutions, including some of the community people. The only thing I heard today from the commissioner, I didn't tune in early enough to hear the mayor, was using...
You didn't miss anything.
Groups. I didn't miss anything?
Nope.
Okay. And that we knew about already, but there are not enough community groups. There are not enough funded community groups who are trained and working in the communities where the violence is to make a dent in this. Because one group can't be everywhere and in every community. And to my knowledge, there's not even one group in every neighborhood. So that's not enough. And the commissioner made it clear they're working with the resources that they have, which to me sounds like she's saying that they don't have and are not being provided adequate resources. We know that one of the things they said they didn't have in the Wallace matter was the stun guns. Well, I mean, that ought to be a regular part of the uniform and those kinds of things. So I don't see that anybody, and we can't blame the commissioner on this because she doesn't control this and she doesn't control the resources. So I don't see that anybody is doing everything they can to plan and work together. So I think there ought to be a joint commission working on this violence. I think there ought to be a limited or a full, it called a full medical emergency. I think curfews ought to be put into effect and enforced. And those are at least three things that would hopefully make people think that something is at least going on and people are trying to make something happen.
And in the meantime, get the commercial corridors safe.
Yeah.
The arteries where we have to go back and forth to work. Our children have to go back and forth to school, or they're going back and forth out and play in the playground. There's, I asked that a police officer be patrolled out there just as a deterrent. We got, it seemed like our safety should not supersede just how where's the new policies at? And right now, it appears that the local government don't have any control anymore. So why is it wrong for us to say, if you can't get it from the state, why wouldn't we call the federal government in to come and bring some resources in and some security and some training and FEMA, look at FEMA set up with the COVID down in the convention center. That's the federal government at work, seamless. The black doctors, the black doctors, give them a contract so they can deal with the mental health issues. A lot of these parents know that some of these
institutions. Tracy, the institutions exist. We're going to have the coalition of culturally competent service providers. They're going to do a show with us in April, and that's a whole group of Black behavioral health organizations that are there on the ground.
Right.
It goes back to what government believes is a priority to them. and what you value. And I'm going to borrow this statement. I don't know exactly who I got it from, but it says a budget is a valued document, and what the administration and council do with that budget tells you what they value most. And so we ought to be paying much more attention to the budget, to the city's budget, to the state's budget, but we ought to be paying real big attention to what's happening as it relates to the money that is going to come as the new, I think they're calling it the CARES Act, whatever the money was allocated by the feds.
Right.
That will.
Yeah. I think that we should address, ladies, the elephant in the room. Just like you said, Tracy, just like you said, Ms. Jetty, just like you're saying, Joanne, it's a result of poverty. It's the lack of resources in our community. It's the lack of investment. They took the investment out of our communities. We don't even have the resources to deal with truancy. We don't have the resources to deal with lack of food deserts. We don't have the resources to deal with these things. And it's clear from this press conference that the administration, they don't have a clue. So at least turn to the community organizations that are on the ground in the community. They know what's going on. They know who's causing the problems. At least interim. Fund those community organizations so that there are resources there for us to deal with the poverty, the underfunded schools, the mental health issues. We have multiple issues going on at the same time. I love what Ms. Jetty said. Initiate a curfew. Do the things that are called for in an emergency. We're in a state of emergency, and so we need to do things to deal with the state of emergency that we're in. Institute a curfew. Fund the community organization so you can get some real information, and you can plan, you can set policy, even if it's interim policy.
Right.
Steps need to be taken, but it's clear the administration doesn't know what to do.
And there's the issue of deployment of the police that they have. Now, of course, I think the numbers of the police are down to the lowest number that they've ever had. And that could be a problem also, because you can't spread but so much in terms of what you have. But they certainly are not being deployed into the areas where they're needed.
That's true. But it's not just an issue the police are going to be able to fix alone. It's a community issue. It's going to take all of us.
Yeah.
But at least be realistic in what you're doing. Set a curfew, fund these community organizations, acknowledge that the underinvestment in our communities has caused this, the underfunding of the schools, the poverty, the pervasive poverty, so that these young people have to participate in violent economics because they are locked out of the economic system in the city.
We have to go to break. You're listening to Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. We'll be right back.
Recovery starts with a call. Pennsylvania's Substance Use Disorder Hotline is staffed by real people who are trained to help. They're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They'll get you or your loved one into treatment regardless of your access to insurance. If you or someone you know is suffering from addiction, call 1-800-662-HELP. Recovery starts with a call.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
The Black Words Book Club. WURD Radio's new monthly conversation on books that explore the African American experience through social, economic, and environmental justice issues. Tune in the second Tuesday of every month on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro, 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. For April, WURD Radio is partnering with the Free Library of Philadelphia and showcasing their pick for its annual citywide reading program, One Book, One Philadelphia, entitled The Tradition by Jericho Brown. Be sure to listen live, as Nick Taliaferro will hold a contest for $100 giveaway book bundle that consists of 4 titles from Kensington's Dafina's Authors of Color's newest release. Don't miss it. Tuesday, April 13th on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro. Attention for WURD members. Get your copy and receive a 20% discount when you purchase at Harriet's Bookstore or Hakeem's Bookstore. For more information on the Black Words Book Club, visit wordradio.com. The Black Words Book Club is sponsored by Dafina. Dafina is an imprint of Kensington Publishing Corporation, America's independent publisher, concentrating on authors of color.
This Women's History Month, WURD Radio is proud to celebrate Black women innovators and trailblazers who have helped us all level up.
Welcome to Black Artist Story 365. My name is Envy McKee. Get into this episode where we explore the art and artistry of Academy Award-winning costume designer Ruth E. Carter. Her film credits span 30 years and over 40 films, including some of the most iconic in the Black film cultural lexicon. Peep this list. School Days, I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, Do the Right Thing, Mo Better Blues, House Party 2, Jungle Fever, The 5 Heartbeats, Malcolm X, What's Love Got to Do with It, Crooklyn, Baps, Rosewood, Armistead, Love and Basketball, Shaft, Bamboozled, Baby Boy, Sparkle, The Butler, Selma, Black Panther. So that's it for this episode of Black Artist Story 365. My name is Envy McKee. See you next episode.
This Women's History Month vignette was brought to you by Bank of America and New Voices for Reproductive Justice, Women of Color Herstory.
You're listening to The Source with Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio. Streaming live on wordradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
The simple things you do, the simple things I love about you. Your voice is sweet to hear. The simple things, knowing your name. You could give me all the diamonds and pearls. You could take me around.
You're listening to Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on wordradio.com, and we are back. And I think, Rita, you were trying to make a point.
Well, I was trying to make the point that, you know, reinvest in our neighborhoods. Okay, there's a huge correlation between the poverty and the lack of economic opportunity that our young men that they have in their lives. So they respond to what's available to them. And what's available to them is the criminal activity that they must engage in order to bring food to the table, in order to bring money into the house. They are locked out. And that goes deeper than just saying, oh, give them a job, because we're talking about the underfunding of our school system. We're talking about the mental health and trauma that goes on in our community. Poverty causes trauma. Just poverty itself causes people to grow up in a state of trauma, and they never get help, and then they become adults and they perpetrate the same thing in their lives. So fund the community organizations that are dealing with the community on a daily basis. Put the resources there. And address the elephant in the room, that these young men are locked out of the economy in this city.
And Rita's right, because I just wrote that down so I can remember. Because a lot of times I like to talk about prevention. And not to say that we definitely have to deal with what's happening now, but we have to go back and make sure we get to those children in those families, like Rita said, for the support services that they need. You realize that some kids done lost about 5 or 6 of their close relatives.
Yes.
By way of gun violence. Do you realize how do you think that kid feels? And then his feelings is going to affect people around him. So where are the wraparound services to get the mental health in the
They're there, Tracy. Those services are there. So I come on here, and at least twice a month I make this statement, and so I'm going to make it again.
Yes.
And when I bring on the group of the culturally competent providers, you're going to hear it from them. It's not that the money doesn't exist; it doesn't go to them. We have people.
That's what I'm saying.
We have trained Black social workers, trained Black psychologists, trained Black psychiatrists running organizations in this city, and they do not get the big contracts. There's always somebody else who knows better what the community needs than the community itself.
Exactly. And
when you look at it, it becomes a business. It's a business. And whenever there's money to be gotten, and I call them poverty pimps, there's a group that continuously knows what's good for the Black community.
Yeah.
And they have been at the trough for years, and they've built big organizations. And those big organizations, you know where the money goes? Out of the city.
Salaries.
Yeah, it goes, but even the investments go out of the city. They don't stay in the city.
Right.
If we needed to, we need what we need is to pay attention not only to the budget, but we need to make sure that when these hearings are coming on, and when the Community Behavioral Health Agency comes up in order to testify, we need to be there. When the Department of Human Services comes up, we need to be there. When the health department comes up, we need to be there.
And there's no reason why
when the school district comes up, we need to be there. And we need to do the same thing at the state level, because when those decisions, and instead of sitting back and shrugging our shoulders and thinking it doesn't matter who the Secretary of Human Services at the state happens to be, it does matter. It does matter who the Commissioner of Human Services has to be. It does matter in all of these positions who they are, and their sensitivities and their cultural perspective about how to deal with it. You just saw, you just saw in that press conference the type of people who were presenting, nice as they can be. But they presented it as though they had a scientific experiment going on.
Yes. Yes. Where was the passion? Where were the solutions that are going to really touch people in this community? It's heartbreaking. I mean, we're waiting for a solution from our leadership, and we got nothing. It's disappointing. It's heartbreaking. It's almost, so frustrating that it brings you to tears, because people are dying in the street every day. And they don't have a clue.
It's getting closer and closer and closer to people's homes.
Yep.
It's getting closer.
Well, for some people, it is their home. It's not closer. It's there.
Yeah, it is their home. Yeah, it is.
So there you go. There was the leadership of the city of Philadelphia with, nice PowerPoint slide presentation on the state of emergency that we're in. And it's going to go nicely, in a row, just like they presented.
I didn't get a chance to see it. What did they propose?
Nothing.
Tracy, it was so much mumbo jumbo.
Oh, okay.
Seriously, it was. It was like they were just presenting to a group of corporate donors, corporate backers on what needed to be done to make it nice again. There was no passion or impassioned plea that this was the solution that could help immediately. Even if it was an interim plan, Even if it was an interim plan for the next 30, 60 days, this is what we're going to do. Nothing like that. It was just such a nice,
and so what can the citizen, what can we do as leaders, and what can we do?
Well, I mean, we use this bully pulpit every week, but we also, in the groups that we're affiliated with and our listeners and everything, if we give them the information, we ought to give them a call for action.
Right.
And I just said one of the calls for action is that the budget is a moral document. It starts with the budget and what they allocate. The other thing is we should not let them get away with all of the stuff that they're going to try to get away with at this particular point in terms of the money that's going to come in the city. It's an awful lot of money that's going to be downstream to the state, which is then going to be downstream to the downstream. Oh boy, my computer is so that should be downstream to the city, and we do not know exactly how much money, but it's going to be a lot, and we need to stay on it. We need to stay on every one of our council representatives. We need to stay on every one of our state representatives. In fact, what I had wanted to do was to begin that conversation today with State Representative Joanna McClinton, who is the minority leader and of the Democrats in the House, and she's a very powerful woman up there, and she's going to have a big say in this allocations. You want to talk to State Senator Vincent Hughes, who's the appropriations chair. You also want Senator Street, Senator Williams. You want to know this, and in City Council, you want to know from the council president and the council members. The chair of finance is Councilman Derek Green. The chair of appropriations is Councilwoman Maria Sanchez, and we need to know that they're informal. You have a delegation at least from Philadelphia to Harrisburg. You want those delegation leaders. You want to know. The budget is important. You can't work without money, and every time money comes, we seem to be last on the list. And the thing that we keep saying is that the people on the ground ought to be funded because they are the ones. They are the ones who understand this. They understand that they understand it better
than anyone. They're in the direct line of fire. They're on the street every day with grieving mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers. They know what's going on in their community. If they are activists and advocates and they have, shoestring budget community organizations, they're the people that they should be talking to.
So we now have
Tracy.
We now have joining us Thomasina Tynes. Thomasina?
Yes, yeah. How you doing, Joanne?
Yeah, well, we're just getting worked up over the mayor's press conference.
We are.
I was trying to ask one and say, what happened to the old-fashioned where the officers used to walk the beat and they knew the people in the community and they knew the grandmama who used to sit out on the porch every day and talk to her so they would know what's going on in the community? What happened to that type of, environment we used to have?
They left with Ross.
Huh?
No, the thing is, the officers that walk the beat don't look like the community anymore.
No.
At all. So they aren't like the officers that used to walk the beat when I was little, who knew everybody. It was this one officer I'll never forget. He was from 55th and Pine, and I know Miss Newkirk, you probably know his name. I forget it, but everybody knew them. The officers that appear to be that's walking the beat are from mostly out of town. You should see how the recruit. One police officer told me yesterday because they can't find any black people that want to be police officers, and I'm like, that's not true.
That's not true. You know that's not true.
Well,
that's not true.
Well, they can never find black people when they want to put them in positions. Remember, we're just having a deficit of everything.
Oh.
If you look at the foot patrols, at least I'm saying in Southwest, all I see is white patrols. That's all.
And nobody's going to talk to them. Not from our community. our community feels as though the police officers aren't there to protect them
anymore.
They're not there to protect them.
Well, I just think that maybe they should look into seeing people of our color be the ones to patrol in that area. I mean, how many of us are there in the police department compared to, how many we have in the cities for our brown and black police officers? I don't understand that rationality. It doesn't,
it doesn't make sense.
Are you saying they're purposely putting those people who don't look like us in those areas?
No, what I'm saying is, if you look at it, look at the statistics in the last 10 years. Let's go back to administration. After Sylvester Johnson, after his administration, look at the stats in the graduating cadet class of Black Americans and minorities, and look at it from there. Once Nutter got in, up until now, and you'll see that they're recruiting different. It's so much that Michael Nutter even went and advertised out in the counties for police officers. And I'm just saying that, you mean to tell me that there are no black women or men, Hispanic men and women that want to be police officers?
Yeah, that's a good job.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Yes, that's a great job.
The benefits they make.
That don't sound right.
No, it don't sound wrong. It's the benefit, the pension,
something happened.
all that stuff. Yeah.
Well,
something happened.
Nowadays, people not even giving pensions anymore.
Change the city requirement that you had to live in the city.
Well, I want to, on the other side of this commercial, we need to talk about that. We've also talked about that on this show before, about how they changed the rules.
Right.
And it was changed under the Nutter administration, and it was the city council approved under the Nutter administration that extended the residency to outside the city. You're listening to Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is John.
Hi, this is Juanita, owners of JD's Auto Body and Painting. We're located at 6300 Wayne Avenue, right there at the intersection of Wayne and Washington Lane.
We really like to thank all you WURD listeners for the support that you've given our business, and we really hope to see you in the future.
JD, tell them about our products and services we have.
We have a new state-of-the-art paint shop along with our body shop and detail shop. We can help you with the dents and scratches from the winter season.
Come to JD's Auto Body and Painting. Come on out and check us out. We're still honoring that WURD 10% discount. Give us a call, 215-848-5949. Again, 215-848-5949.
Thanks again for supporting our business. We really appreciate you.
See you at JD's Auto Body and Painting.
The Mattress Man is a second-generation family-owned mattress specialist business since 1988. Open 7 days a week, located at 7421 Stanton Avenue. The Mattress Man discounts Serta, memory foam, orthopedic, and ComfortTech mattresses every day. You deal directly with the owner, Julian, to ensure you get the best price and best service. The Mattress Man offers same-day delivery on most models to most areas. Ask about the WURD discount. Call 215-424-5550.
Did you know that March is National Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month? Colon cancer is the third most diagnosed cancer in both men and women. But for African Americans, 20% are more likely to get colorectal cancer and about 40% more likely to die from it than most other groups. For more information, go to getscreened.org. That's getscreened.org. Plus, stay tuned for more information on our up-and-coming Go to Know campaign for the WURD listening audience.
You're listening to The Source with Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Here I stand looking around me, while all around me, what do I see? Unhappy faces behind a painted smile, heartache and loneliness dressed up in modern style, unhappy people living in sin and shame, reflections of myself. Life is no easy game, and we're caught in the trade wind, the trade winds of our time.
You're listening to Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com, and we're back. And I think that, we're talking about resources, budgets, crime, and how those resources should be allocated to the city. And we also are talking about what is the call for action, because we can come on the radio week after week, and we can moan and groan, and the other letters that go behind that.
Mm-hmm.
And but we have to be pressed to do something. I think our listeners want to do something. We have some frequent callers who have offered some suggestions and ideas.
Okay.
But right now, there's something that they can do. Do not let them allocate these dollars in a way that doesn't address the wrongs in the African American community. Don't let them do it. Because they will if you don't pay attention. They will. They will minimize it. We've seen too often, and
That's
we know.
right.
We've seen this. We've seen this before. When we had the crack epidemic in this city, it was the way that the governmental response to crack was that these people needed to do something, and it's their fault because they're on crack. Nothing to do with the years of discrimination, poverty, and brutality, and all of that other stuff. But the minute that we had an opioid crisis, it was never their fault. And that resources needed to be thrown at that, more clinics and Narcan and all of the other stuff. And there was an allocation. There was a commitment of dollars that was being made.
Yes.
Because the victims of that were not Black. And so we see it we see the two justice systems that are at work right now. We don't need any more evidence than to see that riot that they had at the Capitol and how those individuals are being treated much differently than what would have happened if the rioters were people of color. We don't need to see any more. We understand this. And what are we going to do about it?
Yes.
What are we going to do about it? If we provide the information here, and that's what we try to do. We try to be serious about providing information. We try to be serious about calling the people who can make some decisions and having them come on the show. We've had, Larry Krasner on regularly since, I think, going back to September.
That's right.
And we have, and one of the things that I want to talk about Krasner for a minute, everyone. One of the things that every time I have heard a complaint about Krasner, we have never shied away about asking him about the issue, and we've asked him on air. And I'm going to tell you that every time somebody whispers in my ear privately and tells me how he's not doing this or that, and he's not doing this on this, and he's not doing this or that, we ask him. And then we ask him to provide, some sort of proof. And then we try to come back to you and tell you exactly what happened. But here's what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to play that slimy game that you guys play. Not our listeners, but they know who they are. The slimy game that you play on our people. There's a slimy game that gets played, and you end up in the pockets of the FOP. The FOP has a candidate out there, and we got some slimy people, some slimy Black ward leaders have decided, we're not going We don't want Krasner. And then you can start getting these articles where he's not, that there are more gun arrests, but there are not gun prosecutions.
Right.
And I find that interesting, and I'm going to bring him back on. I'm going to ask him about that. But on the other hand, if you're asking me to say to you that I think that we ought to go with the guy that the FOP wants, you must think I've lost my mind. That suddenly the FOP is out here telling their members who are Republican to re-register as Democrats so they can vote so they can vote for this guy.
Right.
And you think that I, as a voter, and you as voters should sit on your hands and let this guy come in so that they can return it to back to where it used to be? They don't want this man because he doesn't sit there and go along with the daggone program. Is he great? No. Is he better than what we've had? Yes. We got more black people on death row when Lynn Abraham, nice woman, sent more people to prison for life. More black men on death row. But she's a nice woman. She shook our hand. She came to our party. She ate and all of the other stuff. Then you get Seth Williams. What did he do when he got there? What did he do? He found a way to set up some black women and knew they were being set up. Knew it. And when Kathleen Kane said, well, hey, my name is Wes, I ain't going to do this, and tried to call it out, they went after her to make sure that she ended up in prison.
Yep.
Don't forget that. Don't forget what they did.
That's exactly right.
And they want to return us right back to that. And some of the, Seth was supposed to be our people, but he was looking out for himself. He allowed himself to be dangled on a string.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden now I hear, anytime somebody tells me that it's an elected official, that they have a problem with the choice that we have right now between the DA and the opponent, I want to hear from them. I want to hear from them.
Well, I'm on the ground, and all I hear is president's name. I don't even think they even know the opponent's name. So president's, if he continue, he's going to win by a landslide.
Joanne, I want to say one thing. I'm going to use Michael Kord's words. Anybody who does it is a traitor. That's what we need to deal with. Did he call people out who are traitors with our people, who don't make a difference who they are, don't make a difference whether they're white, black, green, or whatever. When you go against with humanity as far as is concerned, you're a traitor. That's how I look at it. That's Michael Kord's words, and I follow his words.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
that's it.
That's right. The FOP is an enemy, and Krasner is an enemy of the FOP. Hey, no problem.
No problem.
And I don't understand. You can't help me understand when I hear this. Well, he's got a prickly personality. He's that. I don't know exactly why they say that. I'm telling you the things that I hear that said about him.
Yeah.
And I he ain't got to have much of a personality. If he does what he needs to do, when we call him up and ask him, I want to know, what are you doing with respect to gun violence? What are you doing in terms of prosecuting gun offenders? I want to know all of those other things. I don't want to hear about he fired so-and-so and got rid of a certain people and this, that, and the other. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear what is he doing? How can we make it better?
And I never hear them talk about where all these guns are coming from either, right? I never hear the people who, have all the answers. They never bring up where these guns coming from.
Right.
How are they flooding our community so much? Are we tracing any of them? Where the guns
they
coming from?
know
That's
our
never a conversation, Joanne. That's never. I never hear.
We ask about that. We ask about it continuously, and Rita knows this, and our regular listeners know this. We ask about it. The thing that we hear most is about straw buyers and ghost guns.
Right, straw buyers and
ghost guns, and right, and that the ghost guns are assembled. That they're bought at different locations within the same gun show and then put together.
Yes.
And it's untraceable. And then there are people who buy large quantities of people who can legally buy guns, buy more than their share, and then they bring them and then they sell them. Right. And so that's it. But I have a feeling that it's much more than that, but it's only a feeling. I believe that ghost guns may be a percentage of it, and I believe that the straw buyers. But I also believe that it might be some people rolling into the hood that don't look like the hood and open up the trunk of their car and sell them. Because let me just say this.
Absolutely.
Why bother to devise systems that kill off young black people when the simplest way is just give them a gun and let them do it? And so there are people who would be interested in this continued genocide that would make available to them the things that they know that would harm them, because drugs were made available for genocide to be disruptive in the black community.
And the same with the guns. Just like you're saying, they make them available, and so that the people in the community will kill each other. They're locked out of the economic system, and so they're forced into the criminal system. They're forced into the criminal system, the underground black market criminal system. They're forced there, and so they have guns.
We have a caller on the line, Linda Fields.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Linda.
Hello. Hello, everyone, all my sisters.
Hello.
I'm listening and I get filled. Joanne knows I get so full that I just want to explode sometimes because, number one, I'm very much like her, unbossed, unbought, and unapologetic about the things that I say and do. And I'm trying to stay calm. I'm trying to stay calm because I know my mom is on the phone and she will scream at me. Follow the money. Follow the money, because we know the drugs, the mental health, the economics, the trauma, and the intentional targeting of our black babies, women and men, is the agenda. I was asking, I was texting Joanne, and I know I was driving her crazy, but saying what we do need policing. In our black communities, we need policing. Community policing with people that look like us. We do need curfew. And what the hell is the Redevelopment Corp doing? I'm sick and tired of seeing politicians doing photo ops. I'm sick and tired of the fluffy presentations and the words that they speak without any substance or results or resolve.
So, Linda, I want you to hold on. I want everybody to hold on because we got to go to break and we've got to pay some of them bills. And so you're listening to Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com, and we'll be right back.
Okay, Her's new fire potato chips and cheese curls, they are spicy. Whew, they're hottest snacks yet. Hold on. Whew. But it's not just heat. There's some nice sweet and savory stuff going on too. Ooh, there's that heat again. It burns, but it burns so tasty. Ooh, that's hot. Find Her's Fire Snacks at your store today. Whew. Taste the flavor, feel the heat, break out the Her's.
At Bank of America, we believe in the power of collaboration to create jobs and fuel economic opportunity. That's why we're working with local organizations to help people get the skills they need and build a growing pipeline of talent.
I'm Jim Dever, Bank of America Greater Philadelphia Market President. Our partnership with Philadelphia Youth Network is just one way we're taking action to help more members of our community. What would you like the power to do?
Bank of America N.A. member FDIC, equal credit opportunity lender.
Nappy-style hair products are formulated for today's black men and women's hair, embracing ancestral hairstyles. Come and experience these products. Beard oil for men, cream paste, and napping gel growth oil for braids. Go to www.nappystyles.com or The Movement in Mount Airy, 7133 Germantown Avenue, or African Cultural Art Forum, 221 South 52nd Street, or Culture Exchange, 1450 Point Breeze Avenue. Be happy to be nappy.
WURD Radio celebrates Women's History Month with the 2021 Level Up Contest. This year, we're highlighting black women-owned businesses who are making a difference in their communities. A big thanks to all of our nominees for joining us on this journey. We had an overwhelming response with almost 100 nominations. Tune in to Save Space with Sincerely Sarita on March 31st at 7 p.m. for a live on-air Level Up pitch party where the 10 Philly finalists will compete to win a marketing package valued at over $5,000. Level Up is a joint production of WURD Radio in Philadelphia, WVON in Chicago, and KJLH in Los Angeles. 3 black-owned radio stations who are joining forces to spotlight black women-owned businesses in Philly, Chicago, and Los Angeles. Don't forget, join us March 31st at 7 p.m. for the 2021 Level Up Pitch Party, hosted by Sincerely Sarita, where local black women entrepreneurs will pitch their businesses to a panel of judges. Visit wordradio.com and click on the Level Up banner for more information. The 2021 Level Up Contest is sponsored by Comcast, Bank of America, Pico, Keystone First, and Thomas Jefferson University and Jefferson Health.
In celebration of women, Nina Simone.
I'll tell you what freedom is to me. No fear. I mean, really, no fear. If I could have that half of my life, no fear. That's the only way I can describe it.
This is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, Philadelphia. Independent Black Media.
You're listening to The Source with Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDRadio.com and the WURD Radio app.
I'm gonna take myself a piece of sunshine and paint it all over my sky, yeah. Be no rain. Be no rain. I'm gonna take the song from every bird and make them sing it just for me. Something to teach us all about being free, yeah. Be no rain.
Excuse me. WURD Radio celebrates Women's History Month with the 2021 Level Up Contest. This year, we're highlighting black women-owned businesses who are making a difference in their communities. A big thanks to all of our nominees for joining us on this journey. We had an overwhelming response with almost 100 nominations. Tune in to Save Space, hosted by Sincerely Sarita, on Wednesday, March 31st from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. for a live, on-air Level Up pitch party where the Philly finalists will compete to win a marketing package valued at over $5,000. The 2021 Level Up Contest is sponsored by Comcast, Bank of America, Pico, Keystone First, and Thomas Jefferson University and Jefferson Health.
Well, we're back, and so we're going to say, Linda, you have anything else to say, because we're going to bring up the DA next.
Okay, yeah. The comments that I made in text was that the mayor didn't answer or don't have answers because he's not talking to or listening to the people from the communities. I mean, how do you get results? And how do you, when you go to the doctor, he asks an array of questions and you share what your ailments are, and then they diagnose. Well, that's not what's happening in our communities right now. And it's definitely not happening through the mayor's office. And so, you know, we need to stop relying, and it's unfortunate I say this, on the elected officials and talk to the real people that make the difference in the communities, and that's the people that live there and have to suffer through the ills of our community. And I said earlier, we do need policing. We do need policing, and we have to also, like my sister said about calling out the traitors. Jetty has said this for years. If you're the enemy, if the enemy is and if your enemy is my enemy, then that person is my friend. At the end of the day, we have black people that are sold out. They may walk them, and all they're about is what they can get, and think that they have a little influence because they're hanging out with people that are going to do everything that they can to keep our people down. So the list that I had, Jeff, was mental health, drugs, guns, and the trauma. The only answer to that, and it brings back to what Emma has said, is economic power. We follow the money and find out who's doing what for who, expose them, and making sure that we redirect our dollars to places and things that we need for our people in our communities.
We want to thank you, Linda. We'll have you back on and talk to us a little bit more. I got the message. I got the message clearly.
Absolutely.
Look, we've said over and over that on here that we're not afraid, and we're going to say what we have to say. Some people like it, some people don't. I don't know what the usefulness of Bob Brady happens to be. I've said it every week. I don't know. I'm sick of the ward leaders that are afraid of him, because the only people that seem to do well is Bob Brady and his friends. But, you know, but if you want to stay on that plantation, ward leaders, you can. But but we're gonna stop listening to you. You keep playing around, and you won't be leading no one. No one. Keep it up. Keep thinking you slick, and see who you will be leading. People are tired. Did you get the memo? We had Trump, but we're finished. Did you get the memo? Right. We're tired of what's happening down in Georgia. Did you get the memo? We don't want this anymore. Did you get the memo?
No.
And Joanne, before you, a good transition piece is a compliment on your selections of music for today. Very.
Oh, always.
Thank you. Very useful and complimentary to what we're talking about.
I try to. I remember, and I'm going to bring the DA on. I remember Rita. One day, this was when we first came on the radio, maybe the second or third month.
Right.
And something was going on, and we went and found the Malcolm X piece that was in the movie done by Denzel Washington about you've been bamboozled, you've been snookered, and we started the program like that. And one of our callers, and I can't remember which one, we haven't heard from him in a while. He said he was driving down the street, and he said he had to pull over. He said he knew it was about to be on. He said, "Oh, it's about to be on. They hot."
That's right.
They hot. So, good afternoon, Larry.
Good afternoon, Joanne. Good afternoon, Rita.
Good afternoon, Larry.
Cannot say good afternoon, Emma, today. First time I've been on without Emma, but we will all miss her.
Yes.
You know, Larry, the last time that you were on, actually, Emma called from her hospital bed.
Yep.
And she was peppering you with questions. And she was peppering you. And that was the Wednesday before her death. And she was still at it, and she talked to me that Friday about the things that she wanted to see on the show. And again, we want to thank you for paying your respects by coming to her services. Emma, they only made one Emma, and they broke the mold after that. And we're guided by everything that Emma wanted us to do. And one of the things that Emma told you was that she was concerned about gun violence and she wanted you to speak to it. And she said that she was committed, and she had us committed to make sure that we would bring the light. And every time we heard something that it related to your office, your performance, we've asked you that on the air.
Yeah.
So in this past couple of weeks, there was an article that said that there's more gun arrests, but they're not gun prosecutions. I want you to speak to that.
Sure, I'm happy to. And you know, Emma calling from a hospital bed just shows her dedication her whole life. That's pretty amazing.
Right.
So we need to be clear, because sometimes the press is not very clear. My office has a rate of convictions for shootings and for homicide by gun. And that rate, before they shut down the courts in March of last year due to the pandemic, was extremely high. It was nearly 85%. That rate is one of the very highest rates that has existed in the last 5 years, and it's a rate that we achieved without lying, cheating, and stealing. I am speaking now of shooting and homicides by gun, which, of course, is our main focus when it comes to gun violence. And what the article is speaking to is something different. The article was about gun possession alone, not gun possession with a shooting, not gun possession with a robbery, not gun possession with a killing. It was speaking of possession of a gun. And what we see in that article, when you actually look closely at the graphs, is that there has been a 5-year-long trend for fewer convictions on gun possession cases, which has gone on for a while. And I don't like it, and I'm going to talk to you about it. But just so we're clear, I don't like that. There's another 5-year trend that is going on, and I went through this, you know, for a few hours with our police commissioner and with city council yesterday. The other 5-year trend is that police are finding it more and more difficult to solve shooting cases. It goes back to 2015, and it's essentially been a drop every single year. Now, those are things that are going down, and we don't like them. What is going up is the number of gun arrests. So this was and when I say gun arrest, meaning the confiscated gun, someone is arrested. We are prosecuting nearly all of those cases. The idea that we're not prosecuting them is completely inaccurate. The problem that we are having, you know, just to be as transparent as I possibly can, is that we have been having a lot of those cases thrown out by judges, and they are either being thrown out or they are being withdrawn for two main reasons. The main reason is that the witnesses do not show up time and time again. Some of these cases require a witness. And every now and then it's police, but police in general are paid to be there. They're required to be there. It's part of their job to be there. So they show up most of the time. We're talking mostly about civilian witnesses. We took 400 cases that did not result in a conviction. These are gun possession cases. I'm not talking about shootings. We're doing a great job with shootings and homicides by gun. But we took 400 of those cases, and we looked at them, and what we found was 51% of those cases where there was a failure to get a conviction were cases where witnesses would not come in time and time again. We found another 23% where the evidence was too weak. And in many of those cases, we put on all the evidence in front of a judge at a preliminary hearing or at a trial, and the judges threw it out, you know, and most of the time they were right, that the evidence simply was not strong enough to maintain that. So the question of, you know, the point is not to blame anyone. I have no interest in blaming other people. I don't really think it's useful for people to blame us. We should all be working together. But the point then becomes, well, what do we do about this? And why is it happening? So why it is happening has a lot to do with the fact that police are doing fewer pedestrian stops, also known as illegal stop and frisk, but they're doing a whole lot of car stops. And when you're talking about possession of a gun, a person who possesses a gun in their pocket or in their waistband is easy to prove guilty of possession, because what you have to prove as a prosecutor is that they knew the gun was there and they intended to exercise control over it, right? Well, if it's in your pants, of course you know it's there, and of course you have it there for a reason. The problem, though, was when they shifted from stopping a lot of people who had guns on their person and they started to stop a lot of cars and find that gun in different places in the car. They're finding it in the glove box. They're finding it in the console. They're finding it in the trunk. They're finding it under the spare tire. They're finding it in a car where there's 4 people, and not one of them owns that car because it's somebody's mother's car, right? When you do that, we still have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the gun that is found connects to one of those defendants, and that beyond a reasonable doubt that person had it and needed to and was going to exercise control over it. It's known as constructive possession. Actual possession is the gun's in your pocket. Constructive possession is it's somewhere near you, but we got to prove beyond a reasonable doubt it is yours. The law is pretty strict on that stuff. It's not enough to say you were somewhere near it. That doesn't prove that you knew it was there and that you were going to exercise control over it. So, that has been a major issue, the quality of the cases, because so many of them are constructive possession cases, has gotten lower. The police talk a lot about how many guns they got off the street. Well, that's not actually their job. Their job is to get the gun off the street with a case that is prosecutable, where we can win the case. And so, the commissioner has had some good ideas on it, and we have worked with her, and we've had some good ideas on it, too. One of those good ideas was to take a bunch of her best people and a bunch of my best people, and every single week, including today, and in fact right now, they sit down and they look at all of the new gun violence cases, including some of the gun possession cases that have come in over that week. So we're talking 65, 75, 80 cases. They are all very experienced, so they have looked at them carefully. And then they try to find flaws in the cases, fix the flaws, but also fix the training. So, for example, early on, we sat down and there were 19 cases where a gun was found. Police had taken DNA. They had swabbed the gun for DNA. But they had not tested any of the defendants to see what their DNA was. The whole point of taking the DNA off the gun is to match it to the person you think possessed that gun. But they had not taken the DNA off of any of those people. I don't say that to criticize them, because the good news is we all sat there, looked at each other, and said, there we go. That's something we can fix. And the police department has fixed it, to their credit. They are now coming to us for warrants right away. We're giving them warrants right away. And those cases are all in better position. Here's another example of something that we found that, in my opinion, is not fixed yet, but we're working with them to fix it. So a lot of people who are engaging in gunplay, they're carrying guns, they put up social media showing themselves holding those guns. They do music videos where they're waving that gun around, right? So if you're a police officer who just stopped a car and you have a gun in the trunk of that car, you got 4 people in the car, and you have this feeling that it's the driver's, you're guessing it's the driver's because he's got a key to the trunk, that's a pretty weak case. I mean, it's enough to arrest. It may be enough to try to get past the preliminary hearing, but it's not a great case. So, our suggestion there is as soon as you have that person under arrest, you need to go straight at their social media. Because the minute they get out on bail, they're going to erase their social media. If they get a phone call, they're going to pick up the phone and call their, brother, nephew, whatever, and have them erase that social media. We have to grab that right now. And the other thing, of course, is when you do that, it may turn out that there's actually social media from a different person in the car who's holding that very gun and waving it around in front of a camera. That's a work in progress. We haven't gotten yet with the police department where we would like to get. But that is another layer of evidence that can take a weak case and can make it a very strong case. And then a third thing that is coming out of this, I don't want to go on and on, although I'm very passionate about the issue, but a third thing that's coming out of it is because we have experienced people going over these cases one by one, we're able to spot the cases where we think we're going to have a witness problem. We may have a witness problem out of fear. We may have a witness problem because it's a domestic relationship. And even though, the caller was complaining about the gun activity of the defendant, that caller in 3 months may not want to come to court. There may be a situation where you have, your civilian witness is someone who's actually involved in criminal activity as well and doesn't want to take the stand because they might have to talk about something they're doing. So these are all the kinds of challenges that have existed forever with gun cases, but because we have experienced people now going through them, we're able to say early on, listen, police department, can you give us a little help with this witness? We would like to make it clear to this witness they need to come in, any protection they need we will provide, but it's not going to be a situation where they just keep refusing to come in when we think we have a valid case. there are 4 or 5 other things coming out of it that are positive, but those are some of the things that we have found. Now, the good news coming out of this whole process, and some other things we're doing with the police, is that in the last 3 weeks, despite the pandemic and with the assistance and cooperation of the courts, there has been a new room started to do preliminary hearings on gun cases. They're not just gun possession cases. These are also some gun robbery cases. These are some cases where a drug dealer is arrested and has a gun on their person, that sort of thing. But I have been looking at the rate of these cases getting past the preliminary hearing, because you got to get past the prelim to get to the trial. And it's very high. For 3 consecutive weeks, we have been at the 96%, 93%, 91% rate for these cases getting past the preliminary hearing. I think that's a tribute to the courts showing good sense. I think it's a tribute to the cooperation between the police department and the DA's office in trying to have higher quality cases, improving the training. I can tell you I'm aware that the police brass have put out memos to try to make sure that the line officers are aware of the challenges of proving a gun case where you have constructive possession, where that gun is not on the person, and how they need to come with more layers of investigation if we're really going to do that. And I'm grateful for that. That's exactly what we want. We are more than willing to be accountable. We appreciate that the police department is willing to collaborate and also be accountable. But that is I think, a fairly detailed version of much of what's going on with those cases.
So I'm going to let some others ask some questions. I'm going to start. I'm going to go around to who's Jetty Newkirk.
Hello, Mr. Krasner. How are you?
I'm fine. Please feel free to call me Larry, but I'm fine. It's nice to hear from you.
Great. Would you care to respond to the failure of the Democratic Party to endorse you on the ballot for the upcoming election?
Oh, I certainly would, and thank you for asking me about it. To me, it means we're right on track. For those of you who don't remember, in 2017, the Democratic Party stayed neutral, and we won by, with the largest number of votes in at least 20 years for any DA candidate. And let's remember, I was not a politician. I've never run before. Not a particularly well-known person. But we won on the ideas that we had without support from the party machine. And by the party machine, we're really just talking about a few people who are in the executive committee there. And that's happening again. It did not stop us last time. I don't believe it's going to stop us this time. I can also tell you that I have been getting endorsed by one ward after another. It is still early, but just to list a few of them: 1st, 2nd, 5th, I think even 4th, 8th, 9th. I've had conversations that make it very clear to me that we have a number of additional ward endorsements coming shortly. And as people within politics are aware, there are certain groups of wards that tend to go together, and some of them produce a lot of votes. These are very important groups of wards that go together. I'm very optimistic that we're going to do great, and we're going to have the same kind of support that we had before. We also have some good labor support coming in. I can't announce all of it, but I can tell you, we have a number of unions that have already endorsed. We are very optimistic about groups of unions endorsing us. We expect to have broad labor support, and we're going to have a pretty exciting announcement about a very important organization that is having a press conference next Friday. I should not reveal who they are because that would be inappropriate, but I can tell you that they've already advised me that I will have their endorsement. On top of that, we already have the endorsement of a lot of the progressive organizations, as you might expect. So we expect those boots on the ground to be there for us. Even in a pandemic, maybe it'll be more like phones to the ear than boots on the ground, but we expect to have all of that. So, we have a real challenge. But I have to say, I think that the choice is pretty clear. My opponent, Mr. Vega.
Hold on for a second. Hold on, Larry. We got to go to break, but I want you to come back and tell me a little bit about that opponent, and then you're going to hear from Thomasina Tynes, and you're going to hear from our Register of Wills and then Reader. So give Get a sip of water because we'll be right back. You're listening to Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. We'll be right back.
Recovery starts with a call. Pennsylvania's Substance Use Disorder Hotline is staffed by real people who are trained to help. They're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They'll get you or your loved one into treatment regardless of your access to insurance. If you or someone you know is suffering from addiction, call 1-800-662-HELP. Recovery starts with a call.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
Mike, how's your day going?
I'm having a great day. I just bought property on bidforassets.com.
What's Bid for Assets?
It's the new way of buying property from the sheriff's sale.
I've been meaning to buy some real estate. How can I get involved?
Register for free to make a deposit and to participate in the upcoming auction on April 6, 2021 at bidforassets.com. They have sold more than 125,000 properties with a simple and easy process. Now it's your chance to buy property. Visit bidforassets.com.
Livelihood. WURD Radio's new initiative, connecting Black Philadelphians with jobs, entrepreneurship resources, small business development information, and financial literacy tools. Learn more at wordworks.com. That's WURDWORKS.com. And stay tuned to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
You're listening to The Source with Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
There is a woman in Somalia scraping for pearls on the roadside. There's a force stronger than nature, keeps her will alive. This is how she's dying. She's dying to survive. Don't know what she's made of. I would like to be that brave. She cries to the heaven above. There is a storm.
You're listening to Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. And we're back to you, Larry, and I want you to tell us about your opponent.
Certainly I will. You know, the bottom line is that my mother used to always say, hate the sin, not the sinner, so I have no animosity towards Mr. Vega. But if you want to know about Mr. Vega, you need to ask Anthony Wright, and you need to ask Donald Trump. Everybody knows who Trump is. Anthony Wright is a man who was convicted of a terrible rape murder of an elderly woman about 30 years ago. He sat in jail for 25 years, the whole time claiming that a confession had been forced from him and that he wanted the DNA tested with new techniques that it would prove that he was innocent. The DA's office, under other leadership, resisted that and fought him. And finally, he succeeded, and they checked the DNA. The DNA proved he had not done the crime. There was no DNA that connected to him found. But the DNA, amazingly enough, did connect to an actual person. And I say that because you have to be in a database somewhere in order for them to compare DNA that is taken in evidence to you. Well, it connected to a man who had a prior conviction and whose DNA was in the database. And that man lived 1 mile away from the woman who was raped and murdered. So as a result, Mr. Anthony Wright got a new trial, right? Guess who took him to trial a second time? Carlos Vega was one of 2 prosecutors who made Anthony Wright go through a second trial, even though he knew that DNA said he could not have been the person who did this. Carlos Vega is the same one who put up the 2 detectives who forced the confession about Anthony Wright when he was a young man, and a jury found him not guilty in less than an hour. Anthony Wright then turned around and sued, as you might imagine. He got $10 million, one of the biggest settlements in the history of the city of Philadelphia. A few of those millions, no doubt, because of the ridiculousness of his having to go through a second trial for a crime that everybody knew scientifically to a certainty he did not commit. That is an example of Mr. Vega's deeds. That is what he does. He's on the trail talking about reform, talking about conviction integrity. Those are not the actions of anybody who is going to serve the interest of justice. But then the question becomes, who does he serve? And the answer is Trump. It is Trump and Trump's allies, and I say that for this reason. Mr. Vega is endorsed by the leadership of the Fraternal Order of Police, and I say leadership because there are plenty of great police officers in Philly, but they didn't even get the vote. The leadership of the FOP did not take a vote when they endorsed Donald Trump the first time. They did not take a vote when they endorsed Donald Trump the second time. This is the same leadership that is drinking beers inside FOP Hall, officers only section, with the Proud Boys, who went on to lead an insurrection a few months later. That's who we're talking about here. This is the same leadership of the FOP that has tried to justify the visible wearing of Nazi tattoos by a police officer in uniform. This is the same leadership of the FOP that called Black Lives Matter, quote, a pack of rabid animals, unquote, in 2017. Those are the people supporting Carlos Vega, and it gets worse than that because Mr. Vega's main funder, through a PAC that has been set up for him, is a guy who gave $25 million to Donald Trump. He has now given $500,000 to the PAC that supports Carlos Vega. To me, it's pretty simple. Who is he going to serve? We have done a lot for police accountability. We have done a lot for conviction integrity. We have made some difficult choices, but we have tried to do the right thing. Who is Carlos Vega going to serve? So we have a choice. We can move forward, or we can go backward. I'm here to move forward. Mr. Vega, I think it should be pretty clear, is here to do what he is told by the leadership of the FOP, what he is told by the friends and allies of Donald Trump.
Well, that's pretty clear. Pretty clear.
Wow.
Tracy?
Yes. Good afternoon, Larry. How are you?
I'm fine. Good afternoon, Tracy.
So I have a comment I'd like you to comment on, and then I have a question. And so the comment, and this is basically coming from me, my staff, just everybody in general in Philadelphia, they don't feel safe. People don't feel safe in Philly. It's really gotten bad. I've never had so many people fear their safety as ever. We've always had the crime and violence, but it seems like it's maximizing, and now it's hitting our children and our babies. And so that is what your opponent is going to try to attack you on. And I just wanted to let you know that that's how people are feeling. And I think that maybe you should speak on some of the things, I guess, that you're doing to give us some glimmer of hope in the future as it comes from your administration and your office. And my question is, what do you believe is the real reason why they don't like you in this office and they don't want you there?
Great question.
Keep it real, Larry. Come on.
Ooh, Tracy, I love it.
What's the real reason? Because I've heard what the real reason was. I won't share, but what do you think the real reason why they're $500,000 you said that he's raised so far?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
He personally donated himself so far. He got a lot of money. The man's name is Tim Mellon, as in the Mellon banking family, meaning he got his money the old-fashioned way from his great-grandpa, who set up a bank in the era of the robber barons and the railroad barons. So why do I think there's opposition from people on Team Trump? I think it's I think a big part of it, straight up, is that they're a bunch of racists. Tim Mellon, and they're not racist against me because I'm a white man, but they're racist against the fact that we are trying to do something about a criminal justice system that is racist. We are trying to improve that criminal justice system. And so, they're doing something that Republicans have done for a very long time, which is that they have tried to use racism to divide people. They've tried to use racism to split off votes from the Democratic Party. take it over their direction. When Tim Mellon isn't given $500,000 to Carlos Vega or $25 million to Donald Trump, every other word out of his mouth is racist. And then there's the other part, which is he spends the rest of his time trying to bust unions. And we all know how that shakes out for an awful lot of people who are in unions like 1199C or the laborers in Philadelphia. I think that that's a big part of it, but I also think that there's a lot of money and there's a lot of patronage and there's a lot of power tied up in having tons of people in jail. I mean, this is, we see this basically in every state. Yep. If you look at California, you'll see that the corrections union there, the corrections officers union there, has put a lot of money in trying to make sure that they don't have progressive people in office. They failed, but they put a lot of money into it, I think because they misunderstand and they believe they're all going to lose their jobs. They're not going to lose their jobs. They're going to keep their jobs for the rest of their lives. They're just going to have fewer people to guard, and it's going to be done in a way that's not so overcrowded and so dangerous for them. So I think that's part of it. But coming back to your question about, and I hope I kept that a little real, but coming back to your question about people feeling unsafe, they do feel unsafe. They feel unsafe not because crime is going up. Actually, crime is down slightly all over the country and in Philadelphia. And it's not all violent crime either. Violent crime across the country, which is a category that includes things like rape and gunpoint robberies and aggravated assault with a knife, things like that. But it also includes shootings and homicide by gun. Even violent crime overall is down slightly across the country and in Philadelphia. But what is making everyone feel so unsafe, and I understand it and I agree with it, is this huge spike we are seeing all over the country in shootings and in homicide by gun. They took a look across the country. One statistic I've heard is that last year was actually the year in U.S. history with the largest numbers of homicides in the United States. So all across the country, we're seeing this surge. They took a look at 34 major cities in the United States at the end of last year to see what 2020 was like. And what they found there was a couple different things that I want to tell you. The first thing they found was that the average increase in gun violence in 2020 in these cities was 40%. That was the average. Some of these cities were 80%, 108%, 85%, right? Philadelphia had a terrible increase last year. It was 40%. It was terrible. It was also the same terrible as was happening on average all across the country. And I say that because it points to the real cause of what's happening here. Not the politics, but the real cause, which is that it has to do with the pandemic. If you then look at those 34 cities, and you want to know where Philadelphia fell within those 34 cities, if number one was, let's just say number one was the worst city, meaning they had the very highest level of increase in gun violence. Number two, second highest level of increase in gun violence. Out of those 34 cities, Philadelphia was number 23. There were 10 that did better than we did, but there were 22 that had an even higher rate of increase than we did, right? So the question, of course, is, so why is this happening? Why do we have this enormous spike in gun violence all over the country? Why is it doing this in this way we've never seen before? Every criminologist agrees that this is the direct consequence of the pandemic. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense, because all of these things that we have had as a part of our social fabric to keep young people occupied, to keep them out of trouble in different ways, disappeared. Your high school classrooms are closed, and it is mostly young men who are killing mostly young men. And yes, it's true that they're also sometimes killing young children as well. But high school classrooms are closed. All organized sports in and out of school closed. All after-school programs closed. Job programs closed. Rec centers closed. Swimming pools in the summertime closed. Job programs, like the one I was in when I was a teenager, closed. Plain old jobs that you can get from the guy at the corner who's got a rusty van and needs somebody to jump in when he's remodeling a kitchen and haul out the broken plaster in a cardboard box. Those jobs are gone because everybody making $40,000 or less got slammed by the pandemic in terms of their ability to work. Yes, we did end up with more billionaires after all, but that's what really happened. So a huge problem that we are seeing here is that something that has protected us all along all these years, something that we kind of underestimated, this social fabric, of protection and prevention of violence disappeared all over the country. And when it disappeared, all of these different cities experienced this spike. The enforcement part of it was another aspect. Police could not do policing as they had before. And this is why, on some recent statistics, we see that the police in Philly, they had a hard enough time solving shootings before. They were only solving about 2 out of 10. But during the pandemic, especially in certain neighborhoods, they've been down to 1 shooting out of 10 getting solved, right? I don't say that to blame them. I say it because they've had to change what they do. Pandemic is real. Courts got closed. And when the courts are closed, a couple things happen. Probation doesn't see the people they're supervising on probation and parole in their offices anymore, and they don't see them in their homes, and they're not doing drug testing. This is how it's been for a year. That has an impact. When the only reporting that's happening is over a telephone, well, you can pretty much say what you want on a telephone. You could be in the middle of a bank robbery, and you could be telling your PO, I'm doing just fine at the tire store, right? So that has its impact. I don't say that to blame anyone. Pandemic is real. They had to change what they were doing. And in the same fashion, the DA's office cannot go to a courtroom that has been closed by the court system. The judges face a real challenge. We're used to doing trials in person, and it is very hard to get together a jury, to get your witnesses to come in, to have safety for court personnel and so on in the middle of a pandemic. So, what used to be a bustling courthouse now is probably only moving at a 5 or 10% rate, and the backlogged cases are getting worse and worse. We cannot get a conviction when we cannot go to court. We cannot go in there and try to revoke people on probation and parole when we cannot get to court when they're not being supervised. So there has been this simultaneous thing that the social fabric disappeared that was so protected, but also the enforcement arm, because of the pandemic, could not function as it normally had. And those two things have come together, plus a whole lot of other factors we could talk about, but they've come together, and we've seen the same thing in city after city. If you climb up and down that list of those 34 cities and you look for a pattern, this is what you will find. You will find that some of the cities that are doing worse than Philly have traditional prosecutors, have Republican prosecutors. Some of the cities that are doing worse than Philly have Democratic prosecutors. Some of them have progressive prosecutors. Some of these cities are in the South, they're in the North, they're in every part of the United States. The reality is every criminologist agrees, and they agree on almost nothing. It's the pandemic. And so, there is a glimmer of hope, and it's real, because we're starting to hear very positive things about vaccines for kids that can get them back into schoolrooms. We're starting to hear the city talking about opening rec centers, opening swimming pools. We're going to hear more about that in April. But if vaccinations, which are going well now, permit, if decline in the spread of the virus permits, we're looking at society starting to reopen and all of these things starting to come back. What we should do, though, is we should not make the same mistake we made before. We should not strip resources away from these things. We should reinvest in them, and we should reinvest in them bigger than we did before, because it is so obvious they play.
Larry, I want to ask you to hold on. We're going to go to break, and we're going to come back and want you to finish that statement, and then I want to let Thomasina Tynes ask you a question. You're listening to Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. We'll be right back.
WURD Radio Digital Tip of the Month with Stephanie Humphrey. Brought to you by Comcast.
I'm your Tech Life expert, Stephanie Humphrey. With over 750 million users, LinkedIn is the world's largest professional social network. Whether you're looking for a job, trying to find paying customers for your business, or just looking to expand your network, LinkedIn is the place to do it. Here are a few tips to make the most of the platform. It might sound simple, but make sure your profile has a picture. You'll get 20 times more engagement than if you leave it out. Try to include keywords relevant to your industry in your profile info, and make sure you customize your connection requests before you send them. Get more career tips right here on WURD, and stay connected with us at WURDradio.com.
The WURD Digital Tip of the Month was brought to you by Comcast.
The Sweet Treat Hut is the highest-rated juice bar in Philly, located on the corner of 50th and Thompson Streets, providing delicious, healthy vegan food, juices, and smoothies. Treat yourself to a cup of happiness. Call 215-877-1471.
You probably heard it before.
But one of the best ways to stay safe from COVID is by avoiding crowds. That's better. Also, when you're out in public, make sure you stay 6 feet away from strangers or people you don't live with. It's okay to say, "Can I have some space, please?"
Well, it's going to be a beautiful sunny day today, and we can expect much.
If you're gonna have a get-together with friends and family, have it outside. And remember to keep those 6 feet of social distance. And last but not least, wear a mask that covers your nose and mouth with no gaps. They slow the spread of COVID or new forms of the virus called variants. And make sure you get your vaccine when it's your turn. We're all out here trying our best, and it's making a difference. We just gotta keep it up. We can do this.
To learn more about slowing the spread, visit cdc.gov/coronavirus. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Situated in the gorgeous hills of western Massachusetts, Miss Hall's is a boarding school for today, where girls in grades 9 through 12 live alongside a diverse community of new friends from around the world, where learning is immersive and students are supported by friends and mentors 24/7, where they hold all the leadership positions, where they develop autonomy and determine their own path. Your daughter will never feel more supported or more energized than she will at Miss Hall's.
As soon as I walked in the door, it was just this instant. I just felt like home.
Learn how affordable Miss Hall's is at misshalls.org/WURD. You're listening to The Source with Black Women's Leadership Council on WURD Radio.
Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Well, we came right back. There's one question from our Facebook watcher and listener, Stephanie Purnell. She said, "Good afternoon, Mr. Krasner. I wish you much success in your reelection. But I do have a question for you about the status of the incident involving your ADAs, Voce and Nash, in regards to the road rage incident. And I think it's Cassandra Franklin. Have they been appropriately disciplined, and to what extent? I would truly appreciate your response, as true criminal justice reform must begin with your office, and not be even by your own staff."
Joanne, can I just say,
so she corrected it, not be tolerated by your own staff.
Yes, I appreciate that question. I'm happy to answer it. So Nash, the person she's referring to, is actually a high level. He is at a high level within the police department, and obviously I have nothing to do with any discipline that would occur within the police department. That's a question that I think really should be directed to the police commissioner. I just think it would be inappropriate for me to comment on that with reference to her. Mr. Voce was the chief of the homicide unit, homicide and non-fatal shootings unit, at the time that this incident occurred. He is no longer the chief of that unit, and he is no longer in the homicide unit. He is doing a different kind of work with economic crimes within the office at this time. I make a point of not getting into all the details of additional punishment or additional treatment or services that may be appropriate for an employee. But I can tell you that, in my opinion, we have taken very appropriate steps in this matter in reference to the situation. I do think, though, it is fair to point out that some of the story has been missing, and some of the story has been missing from the beginning. We didn't prosecute the case involving Ms. Franklin. It was handled by the Attorney General's office because, of course, it'd be a conflict for my office to prosecute it when such a high-level employee was a witness to what occurred. But the part that's missing is that, Mr. Voce in no way stood in the way of there being a disposition of the case by the AG's office that led to her not being convicted. Like me, he is also a believer that when people may need some kind of services or may need some kind of treatment, they should be given that opportunity. Ms. Franklin, at the time the incident occurred, already had a criminal case involving driving under the influence, in which she had been involved in a head-on collision. Her vehicle was going the wrong way on a street and had a head-on collision with another vehicle. That criminal matter was pending, and there was an additional criminal matter. I say this only to point out that the circumstances of those other cases were suggestive of a possible issue with impaired driving, and I am happy to see that the way the case resolved is one that is going to encourage addressing any issue that may have existed there. In my opinion, though, there was an issue of an abuse of power in how police and, my office handled the case. I recognize that, and that's why some rather serious moves and serious outcomes occurred within my office. I kind of feel like that's all I should say, because we do make a point of not talking publicly about discipline, about transfer, things of that sort. But I hope the part I've been able to explain tells your listener what you need to hear.
I want to make this clear to our listening audience, because I hear the explanation, and I'm not fully briefed on what happened. I didn't follow it closely. But what I would say is that in that incident between the two, he had no idea what her previous contact would have been, whether she was an abuser of alcohol while driving. So what we judge him by is what his actions were when he confronted her, and that's what we want. All of us sometimes feel emboldened by the power that we may have in a position that we may hold, and we have to hold ourselves in check. And that comes from the president on down, that people want to hold themselves in check, and that they don't believe that because they wear that badge or have the authority that it's weighted in their favor. And I know that you understand that, and that is the reason why you have so much support. But it's important that you demonstrate that in your own office, that it's not just for others, it is for the same behavior. Now, I know two people, Thomasine, and then back to the register. Thomasine?
Hi, how are you? Good afternoon, Mr. Krasner. I was trying to find out, I hear you speak on different, when you come on the show. I think some people are getting confused on some things that your office does and the Attorney General offices, as far as, do you think that sometimes the police are giving you all, or they're doing a good enough investigation to give you information so you can be able to prosecute some of these things? I think that could be maybe a problem. Since they are not endorsing you, not supporting you, it could be that there's be some lack of things that, and during their investigation, to give you certain material that you can be able to prosecute certain people on these cases.
Well, thank you for that question. I appreciate the question. I think it's very important to be clear, though, that, the Fraternal Order of Police is about 2/3 retired police officers. They're not the ones we deal with every day. And, even the leadership, these are not active Philadelphia police officers. So when we hear the leadership, taking a position on behalf of the FOP, often taking it without having taken a vote of its members, understanding all of its members are required to join that union. They don't have a choice. They're required because it's a bargaining unit. The voice of the leadership of the FOP often sounds nothing like the voice of our police commissioner or a lot of her senior staff, many of whom I think do an excellent job. We get along well with them and collaborate in new ways all the time. I don't want to think that there are active Philadelphia police officers who are deliberately underdoing investigations or deliberately sabotaging investigations. I do not want to make a claim like that. I think we actually have a lot of support among the investigative staff. I mean, for example, I can tell you that the homicide investigators within the police department work very closely with us. They always have, and the rate of solving homicides is much better than the rate of solving shootings because of that good cooperation. So, it's hard for me to speak about the mental state of 6,500 different individuals who are the active police officers in Philadelphia. I'm sure within any very large group, there are some people who don't want to do their job. That's just the nature of human beings. But I would like to think, and I certainly hope, that we are getting good efforts from the active Philadelphia police officers, Philadelphia detectives, and the brass we work with on a regular basis to solve crimes and to get us all the information we need. I will say this, it would be a huge help if we could get better forensics in the police department. That is something that happens within the police department. We do have a forensic lab here, and I've spoken at length about it, but there's a couple things that wouldn't cost a whole lot of money that could make it much easier for us to solve some of the most serious crimes and for us to win in court. It's not just a question of solving cases we can't solve now. It's also a question of winning cases by having additional layers of evidence that will make it so the case is just overwhelming. I really do wish that the city.
Well, we're on that one, and so I want we're coming down to the end of the show real quickly, Tracy.
Yes, I just wanted to say I just got a text from the 28th Ward, Keith Harris. He says his ward is totally supporting you and going to endorse you. And I also wanted to let the listening audience know that the question that I asked him, our DA, when I asked, what do you, why don't they like him? And he answered it correctly from what I heard. The prison the school to prison pipeline is losing money. That's why they want him out of office.
Very
Rita?
Well, listen.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to come on the show every week if I get award support out of it. That's pretty great.
Well, wait a minute. Linda Field said that to let you know that she had a couple of questions. I can't get into those, but Power Up PAC will endorse you. I don't know who Power Up is. It must be Linda.
Oh, well, that's great too,
Okay.
Larry.
Yeah. Real quickly, we're going off quickly, Rita. Go ahead.
Okay, Larry. So we at the beginning of the broadcast, we heard a press conference from the mayor and members of his administration and partners who wanted to talk about the state of emergency that we have because of the gun violence. We were all disappointed in what we heard. And I'm not trying to make you a psychosocial expert or a socioeconomic expert because, you're the DA. But if you could sum it up in one point, what would you recommend as a way to stem the violence that's plaguing our city?
Real quickly, because we're signing off. Go ahead, Larry.
Sure. The most important thing is a massive effort at prevention. Black clergy has come out with a program and a plan for gun violence to raise $100 million to be put into community-based organizations. This is something that has worked in L.A. and has worked in Chicago. It's worked in other places before the pandemic. It can work in Philly. It will work in Philly. So that's really the most important thing is Philly got to do something it has never done well, which is prevention. We can do it. Yes, there are other things on the enforcement side and the policing side, but the elephant in the room, the most important thing here is we got to do prevention.
We want to thank you. Thank you so much. I want to thank all. I want to thank all my guests. I want to thank the Register of Wills, Tracy Gordon. I want to thank the great Jetty Newkirk, Esquire. I want to thank the Honorable Judge Thomasina Tynes. You kicked it today, girls. We're ready to go out. Thank you, Larry, so much.
Yes,
we'll see you again next week.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, everybody. See you next week. Thank you, Larry.